Yo, how's it going? MPR Gen Listen Selective Committee. My name is Abdul-Hafeez Nakumbi. I am a reapplicant. I applied last year, but at the time I was going to Chapel Hill to finish an internship. I have since then returned and I am back and I am reapplying. So via video, hope you like the video. I'll try to keep it short and sweet. I'm kind of going to do a little bit of a compare and contrast from last year's responses to this year, just to add any more context. If things have changed, my philosophies have changed X, Y, and Z. So, question one: Why do you want to be a part of shaping the next generation of NPR listeners? My response here from last year is I am passionate about changing lives by improving the well being of communities through advocacy. Being a member of the advisory council would allow me to connect with a diverse peer group to develop culturally relevant advocacy initiatives. I still agree. This is still on my agenda item. Something I always prioritize is advocacy, ensuring that the voice unheard has an opportunity to be heard. That's something I'll always stand for. However, I think my agenda has changed a little bit. In here, I go on to talk about how I think we should talk about relevant policies, how they come out, content should be created around that, and how these will affect our target audience. Whereas I still believe we should discuss policies and have discourse, and content should always be relevant in that sense. I feel differently on how NPR's content can be better tailored for a target audience and be culturally relevant. As myself, identifying as a black American Muslim male at 24 years old, I know that I want to learn more about entrepreneurship and economic development. Where are resources at in our communities, in our states, to help me as I go on as an entrepreneur and pursue other endeavors? And so that's something that will be heavily on my agenda, and I think content should constantly be addressing that. As I know, Minnesota, we are one of the number one for startups, and so clearly there's a lot of momentum behind starting your own business, and I think this will be very important for us as an advisory board to keep this on the agenda and ensure that constant content is regularly speaking to this topic. Why though? The why is very important. Let's address the why. I'm a change agent. I think that I want to be in a space where thinkers are and where I can influence what content is going to be created and ensure again that it's culturally relevant and people that resonate with it. Um, so that's really the heart of the why. I'm very intentional about what I get involved in, and this is a phenomenal opportunity to influence how people engage with radio, with our podcast, with information, and so information is currency these days. So, question two? Why do you believe you are uniquely positioned to contribute to that effort? I had a background in community health education and a minor in political science. Graduated in May 2017, Minnesota State University, Mankato. With that being said, I am very good at um, looking at things from a big picture, zooming out, and then zooming in into the micro details, the content, the milestones, the benchmarks, the objectives that we're hitting, that we're meeting, so that our overall listeners are increasing, that our overall podcasts are being downloaded more. Um, how is our engagement at events? What does our attendance look like? Are we really making content that is relevant to our target audience? And so again, with my background being in those two areas, I'm good at doing my due diligence for research, and then making suggestions and ideas based on those findings. And so that was what makes me uniquely positioned to contribute to that effort. Again, the culmination of my experiences has awarded me to be an invitee to serve in the Peace Corps. I'm currently have been recently selected to sit on the advisory board for the mosque that I used to attend in the youth. That's a 2-year commitment, and so I sit on that advisory board. What else is unique about me? In my experiences, I've learned to be a great leader who's collaborative, has a great listening ear. I'm good at idea cultivation. What are the pros and cons of this idea? How does it relate to our audience? How do we build on this? Can it be stronger? So these are my skills, and they have helped me be an effective person to addressing my agenda items. So, I'm hoping I'm answering these questions enough. Oh, this is very tough because without being in person, without feedback, ask follow-up questions. A little tricky. Question 3: what are you most passionate about, and how do you pursue that passion? Again, I'm very passionate about being a change agent. How do we get closer to equality? How does the little person have their voice heard? I think a lot of this advocacy that is the core of who I am can be expressed through the expressive arts. And so, all the more reason why I have jumped off the ledge to start my own company and be a full-time artist. And so that's how I'm recently pursuing my passion is through my artworks. And yeah, I just started my LLC very recently. So kudos to me. That's how I'm pursuing my passion, and by serving, by again serving in communities and advisory boards, looking for opportunities to serve, with people, with my hands, getting dirty. Um, that's always something that's going to be huge on my agenda as well. Number 4, what are you listening to, and where do you get your news and music? Last year, I was listening to rap the most, and that has only increased. So since then, I've been going very niche and diving deep in music and really studying the '90s music, hip hop wise, the Tribe Called Quest, Little Brother, Jungle Brothers, Beastie Boys, Nas, all those albums that came out during that time, Rakim, OC, Jay Z, Big L, oh man, The Roots, Native Tongues, and all that combination. So because I was born in the '90s. I really wasn't exposed to '90s music. Grew up in like 2000s music. So as I study hip hop and study jazz, it all brings me back to that '90s '80s era. And to be a real fan of it, I think you have to understand that. And so I've been diving deep in that music. What else am I listening to? I'm huge on podcasts. I listen to podcasts daily. Hip hop podcast, MPR Up First, Quick Brain by Jim Quick, a religious podcast, financial podcast, Bigger Pockets, sales podcast. I'm all over the map, but I really try to listen to things that are gonna help me grow. I listen to motivational speeches on a regular. My favorites: Gary V, Eric Thomas, Jim Rohn. That's where I get my music. So streaming services, podcast, and YouTube. Yeah, and the internet. Where else do you get your news? I'm on Twitter heavily. I follow a lot of the magazine sources: Business Insider, Yahoo, Economist, Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg. You guys, yeah. So, yeah, that's where I get my information from. Unfortunately, I don't watch TV, and I'm not regularly tuned into the radio. Like I don't have radio on my phone, so which is very important to note, because when on an advisory council or something like this, if we're looking to increase listenership I think it's also very important that we're looking at, what is our most successful business model? Is that going completely digital? Is that looking at the podcast new numbers? Is that, analytics is so critical in how people make business decisions these days. And me understanding how I get my information as a consumer is very important to understand how we make suggestions on the board. So those are all my responses. If more context is needed, I'm happy to follow up via email. I look forward to hearing you guys' responses. And hopefully I can be an asset and a new member of the MPR Gen Listen Advisory Council. Thanks for your time. Cheers.